Tonight, we're going to tie one of the 5 required patterns for the FFI Gold Level valuation. And this is a hare's ear, gold-ribbed hare's ear nymph. It's a standard tie. It's really not difficult. It doesn't take a lot of materials. The only thing, some of the things that we need to look for are we want the body to be 2/3. The abdomen should be 2/3 of the hook shank, and the thorax should be that final third. Our ribbing should be between 4 and 5 evenly spaced wraps, moving up, starting from the bottom of the hook shank. The tail, it's going to be made from the hare's ear mask. It's the guard hairs of the hare's ear mask, and it should be 2/3 the length of the hook shank. We want to make sure it's also tied in at the top of the hook shank. It's not rolling down to one side or the other. The wing case, we want to make sure that when it's tied in, there's no gap between the abdomen and the thorax, and the wing case comes directly on top of the hook shank and folds over. It doesn't fold over to the side, to the left or the right, and we want to make sure that this wing case is not split. It's one solid wing case. Our head should be no bigger than the eye of the hook. With that being said, let's go over and review the materials. All right, so I'm going to use a Semperfli 12-aught thread in black. We're going to put down a few wraps of, this is 0.23 millimeter lead-free wire. Definitely you want to use lead-free wire for this. Our ribbing is going to be Vivus medium round oval tinsel. Our tail is going to be taken from this hare's ear mask. We're going to use some of the guard hairs. Our abdomen is going to be natural hare's ear. Our thorax is going to be a dark hare's ear. And you can buy that dubbing. You can buy the natural and the dark hare's ear. Or you can clip it out of the hare's ear mask if you prefer. And the wing case is going to be a mottled turkey. And then I'm going to finish it up with a drop head cement, and I'm going to use a little Velcro. Can't see that. Little Velcro to brush out the thorax, to brush that out and make it look a little more full in the bottom. So, all right, let's go back and start tying the fly. All right, so this is a size 10 1x long nymph hook. I'm actually using a size 10 1x long streamer hook because that's what I have. I don't have a 1x long nymph hook. So this is essentially the same hook, maybe just a little bit heavier in wire. I'm not 100% sure, but this hook will work fine. So we're going to take, first thing we're going to do is take our lead-free wire. I'm going to call it lead, but it's a lead-free wire. We're going to put down 10 to 15 turns. We're going to come in with our lead-free wire, and we're going to just wrap, and we're going to start, and we're going to wrap 10 to 15 turns. What this is going to do is, number one, it's going to give us a little more weight, so it sinks faster, but it's also going to help build that taper and that heavier thorax. So we're going to move that up, make sure it's all together. We're going to move it up about 1 to 1.5 eye lengths behind the hook eye. That's where that's where it's gonna sit. We don't want to move it up too close because it would affect our eye. So now we're going to take our thread and we're going to start, and we're going to tie back, and we're just going to tie right through the lead, and that'll lock that in place. Some people like to put a little bit of a thread dam in front and back. You can do that if you prefer. Now we're going to tie in our tail. So we're going to come up and we're going to grab the hare's mask, and we're just going to select some of the guard hairs. We're going to select a chunk. This one's worked over pretty good, but we'll get something out of it. All right. Now you see we have that. That's what it's going to look like, but it has a lot of fluff. So we want to clean out all that under fur. All we want left is guard hair. Now the nice thing about it is all this stuff we're cleaning out is fluff. We can use that for dubbing if you prefer. So we're going to clean that out. Now we're going to look at our guard hairs. Anything that's super long, we're going to pull out. They don't have to be stacked in a hair stacker or anything like that, but they should be relatively all the same length. All right, so that looks pretty good. We got it all cleaned out. Now we're going to measure. We want it to be 2/3 of the hook shank. So we measure it out. So that's about 2/3. Now we're going to transfer that, and then we're going to just tie it right in a loose wrap. And we're going to roll that up to the top, and we're going to take some tight turns. We're going to hold it up as we wrap back, and then we're going to come forward and we're going to lock all that into place. We don't have to worry too much about a lumpy underbody on this because we're going to use dubbing, and that dubbing is going to it's going to cover up that. So now we want to check, is our tail on top of the hook shank, and it looks like it is. So with that said, we can move up, and then we're going to tie in our ribbing. A ribbing is the medium oval tinsel, and that's going to start. Our ribbing should start at the bottom of the hook shank, so we're going to tie that in at the bottom. We're going to start up at the top, and we're going to tie it all the way back. It's a good habit to do that when you tie in materials like this, to tie them the full length of the abdomen. Number one, it helps lock it in better. It's not going to pull out as easy. And number two, it really does help create a consistent underbody. With that tied in, now we can come back and we can start our dubbing. We're going to get that ribbing out of the way. We're going to come up and we're going to leave just a little space behind the tail. We're going to take our dubbing, our natural hare's ear, and we want to dub that in. We want to dub it in pretty tight. We want our abdomen to be fairly tight. A lot of times you see hare's ear and it looks like just a big fluff of fur, and it really shouldn't be. It should take on the resemblance of a a insect, a nymph. So it should have a slightly tapered body. And with this hare's ear, as you fish it, as it's gonna, even as you wrap it, the dubbing, it's gonna create some. It's gonna be spiky. You can't help it with this hare's ear dubbing. So just make it tight, and as we wrap, you'll see it'll start to spike up. Now our first wrap with this black thread, we have to be very careful. We do not want any black thread showing. As you see, I have some there. Our first wrap's going to be right into the tail a little bit. Make sure the tail stays on top of the hook shank, but we don't want any black thread showing. And we're just going to slightly wrap forward, creating a little bit of a taper as we go. Again, you can see that abdomen it's tightly dubbed onto the body, but yet it's still got a spiky appearance, and that's what we're looking for. I'm going to add more dubbing. You may have to do this 2 or 3 times, and that's okay. I'd rather add more dubbing in multiple steps and then try to do it all at once, and then you end up with a big fluffy mess, and it doesn't look good at all. So we're going to continue up with that taper. We're going to use our dubbing to build that taper. There, come on, that can then done. Just unwrap and then rewrap it on your thread. Yeah, a little bit more. Now we're going to wrap this abdomen up into the thorax. because that's going to allow us to have that good transition from the abdomen to the thorax without having a gap that's behind the wing case that's going to show thread wraps, and it's not going to show, it's not going to have a nice smooth transition. So we're going to continue to wrap up into the thorax with our abdomen. That's pretty good. So now what we need to do is we need to figure out what is 2/3 of the hook shank. So I have a pair of calipers here. So I'm going to open it up and measure 2/3 of the hook shank. That's probably pretty good right there. And that is 15. But 15 millimeters, so a third of that should be 5 millimeters. So we're going to reset our calipers down to 5 millimeters. And we're going to measure. So we're going to see where that is. So we see it's just a little bit into our abdomen. So I'm going to wrap back, and I'm just going to take a couple thread wraps just right there. That'll help me figure out where it's at. I'll see a little shadow there, and I'll know that's the spot. So now we're gonna wrap our ribbing, 4 or 5 equally spaced wraps. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this 5th one we're probably not going to see, but we'll put it in there. And we haven't put too many wraps down. So if that 5th one, sorry, I bumped the camera there. If the 5th one is visible, it'll be okay. But if it is, then we want to make sure that we have 5 visible wraps on all 3 of our patterns that we submit. We want them all consistent, all to look alike. Okay. So now with that, we can kind of take some thread wraps and kind of lock everything into place, come back to our tie in place for our thorax. I'm going to build a little bit of a thread, a little bit of a platform here to tie in our wing case. We're avoiding that space right behind the eye. Once we have that platform, and it's okay to put some thread wraps down here because we want that taper to continue with the dubbing. And so this is just gonna be covered with dubbing. Now we can get our wing case, which is our modeled turkey. I like to do my wing case about 3/4 of the hook gap. So I just cut out a piece, and I'm going to measure that up. And that's pretty good. It might be a little more than 3/4, but it'll be okay. I cut out some of that white stuff in the front, and I made a little bit of a triangle to tie it in. Now I'm going to hold it. I'm going to spin my thread counterclockwise to flatten it. So that way when we make that first wrap, our thread's going to jump towards our materials and not away from it. Now I'm going to hold that up on my side of the hook shank at just a slight angle. I'm going to take a loose wrap, and then I'm going to roll that up onto the top. You can help it with a little bit of assistance with your fingers if you need to. Keep that flat on top as we tie back. Keep it right on top of the hook shank. Keep it as flat as possible until we get to that spot that's going to be the start of our thorax. And we're going to use our calipers, and we're going to measure, and that's it. We got the right spot. Now our wing case, we're going to double check. It is on top, and it's all married together except for this one piece, but we can fix that pretty easy. We're just going to trim that out. We don't need it. Okay, now we're going to take our dark hare's ear dubbing, and we're going to just continue to dub up the thorax. We're going to continue that same taper, and our thorax should be a little bit bulky, but again, we're not creating a big fluff ball. We want that bulk to come from a really nice wrapped dubbing around the thread, and the spikiness of the hairs there will create that effect that we want. Now we're going to make sure we definitely we don't have any black thread sticking out, and we're going to come forward, and then we're going to come back through, and we're going to do a little bit more. Not much more, but just a little bit more. All right, a little bit more, and then we're going to actually slide that up, and we're going to wrap more right behind the wing case. A little bit thin right there. All right, now we can come up to the head, and we're ready to pull over our wing case, and we just pull that over, straight over. We take a nice loose wrap, and then we cinch it, hold it in place, cinch it down, and take a couple tight wraps, and then we double check. Our wing case is on top, a little bit, actually a little bit to the side, so let's just adjust it. Tie it. And then once we get that where we want it, we'll pull that wing case back and then take a couple thread wraps onto that wing case, and that'll ensure that when we tie this off, we're not going to have anything sticking out over the eye. Now let's check that wing case. That looks good. It's directly over on top of the hook shank. All we have left to do is just form a nice neat head. Our head should be no bigger than the eye of the hook, and we're just going to form a neat head, basically just enough wraps until we get all of our butt ends and everything covered. We have a nice neat tapered head, and then we can whip finish. Our whip finish should start from back to front, so we're going to bring our thread up to right in front of the wing case, and 1, 2, 3. We don't need a lot, just enough. Then we're going to cut that out. Now we're gonna what we have left to do. We're just gonna take our dubbing brush with a little bit of Velcro, and we're just gonna tease that thorax out a little bit, and that's gonna give us our legs. And don't be afraid to give it a good rub. If we do too much, we can always cut it out. And we're just gonna give a little bit of a haircut. Just enough to look like we got legs sticking out. Now it looks pretty good. If we got any strays, we're going to pull that out. Now we're looking at my tail, and I see I have a few fibers here that are just longer than the others. So I'm going to fix that. And how we fix that is we'll just take a pair of tweezers, and we'll just come in, grab those, and pull them out. We got one more there. Still there. Hard to do behind the camera. All right, so now our tail looks good. It looks fairly even. There really isn't any fibers that are sticking it out excessively past the others. And that's the Hare's Ear Nymph. Now, finally, I'm gonna put a little bit of head cement. I'm gonna actually put a little bit on the wing case, just enough to soak in, give it a little bit of durability, ensure that that doesn't split. And then I'm gonna actually put a little bit on the thread wraps. And that's the Hare's Ear Nymph. Again, proportions are key. Make sure you're measuring out 2/3 of the hook shank, and your thorax is the final third. Make sure your tail is 2/3 of the hook shank. You make sure your wing case is tied overhead, directly on top of the hook shank. Make sure there's a nice even transition between the abdomen and thorax. There's no space behind there. There's no thread wrap showing. There's no gaps. It's just one solid transition. And your ribbing should be 4 to 5 equally spaced. As you can see, I have 4 equally spaced wraps, so I'm going to make sure on my subsequent flies that I have 4 evenly spaced wraps. and then make sure your head is tied neatly and no larger than the eye of the hook. All right, so that's what I have. That's the Hare's Ear Nymph. That's a required pattern. Enjoy tying it. It's actually a fun pattern to tie, and it's really effective. So you should learn to tie it anyways and have a few in your box. All right, have a good night. As usual, as per usual, you can, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer them. Have a good night.